This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book. Let's do it again. All right.
Episode 83, Excavated Nuggets.
Welcome to Zettelcast number 83. I am Victoria, your humble host, along with my associates. I can't believe it's been 83 episodes already. This is crazy. And LiLLiPub's 2 years, we're just sailing along, doing what we do, and grateful to have all of you join us. So as your host, the question that I posed was, ask your index or search it at random for a note card that reveals something surprising to yourself or to the rest of us about a character that you're writing in Roanoke or the way that they're unfolding in the story. Why or how did it surprise you? And sketch out what the idea or scene might look like and share it. So since we've kind of followed a through line in a lot of ways as the story has developed, my thought behind this episode was, let's just see what our note boxes offer up without any pre-planning or premeditation, and just excavate a card out and see what kind of nuggets we find. So anybody want to kick off?
Okay. Oh, Deb.
Deb, go for it.
Yeah.
Bring us a nugget.
Bring you a nugget. Well, I have this character, Sarah Shen, who is a xenolinguist. I think that's the way you pronounce that, which says that she's an expert in languages, and she's supposed to, if Earth has 7,500 different recorded, officially recognized languages, she knows 3,500 of those, which is quite a feat. So when her institution, which is the xenolinguistic institution, decided that they were going to go send somebody to Lydia to record on the institution's Lukasa, this new language, that is the Lydian language, she was the hands down the first pick, right? And so she went there, Lukasa in hand, ready to add one more language to this device that they had basically usurped 400 years ago from an African tribe. And long story short, they didn't know what they had commandeered. They had no idea. And she found out that this thing that she had dedicated her entire career, her entire life to, she didn't even know what it did, actually. So she was, bummed out, headaches and everything, she literally, when one of the Lydians touched her Lukasa, the thing hummed. And she had never had a humming experience before with the Lukasa. She was absolutely floored. She didn't know what to do. She actually crashed on the cold floor and went into a fetal position and was asking, where's my mama? It was, total crash, right? And the thing that surprised me that I didn't anticipate was that in the midst of it, all of that emotion and all of that crashing down and all of that, feeling that she had, there was this one eye that opened up and was really happy. Inside her, there was this thing that said, "Oh my goodness, oh my God, oh look, I am here. I am the first to see this reality. Look at where I am. This is gorgeous. This is wonderful." Okay, slaps me in the face, tells me I'm no good, tells me I had it all wrong. But I'm the first. I see this, and I have to take this home and tell everybody. So she got home and she was still having her headaches and all of that. But she changed the school that she was running, the language school that she was running in Queens. And she changed how she actually her institution gave her an alternative, a rebut. Like they said, "Hey, you can't, you come in here telling us we don't know what we're talking about. That singularity is what singularity? This is what it is." "No," she said, "this is only a singularity, and there's much, much, much more. And we can't cut ourselves off from that much, much more just because we think it's so, So that was my excavated nugget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Fabulous.
I don't know. Would you call that a nugget?
I don't know, dude.
I
That
might call
was
that a
more like a
Ah,
volcano.
ooh.
Ooh.
More like the
Very
gold
exciting.
mine, not just a nugget, the whole gold mine.
Yeah.
I love the idea of identifying and unpacking the languages. It's funny, just this morning when I was waking up, I was remembering, I don't know why I just thought about this, but has anyone ever seen that map of the United States that maps it by how people speak? There's like hundreds of little, it's funny. I want to say there's 8 zones that the guy did. And like one zone 8 is like the entire West. People pretty much speak the same. But when you get to the East, there's like all these little pockets of different dialects and whatnot. So I'm envisioning this character like looking at the Lydian world and thinking about, how language moves around based on where people are. And I don't know, I feel like there's something really valuable there.
Huh.
Get busy.
She the Lydians thought she was strange. Because she was thinking in this singular fashion, and she had no clue at how to think in a dual or triple or multi-dimension way. She had no clue. And what I liked about her, that turnaround that occurred with her, was that she understood and after all the pain, she decided that the only thing that she could do was become an apprentice to learn this new way, and then to take it home and spread it. So
I love it.
yeah.
And I like that there's a crossover. There's a planet to world crossover in that character, which that's cool to play with too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to tie
Deb Hart down to one planet. I'm sorry.
That's right. It's interplanetary, Deb.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Whew. Kathleen, you want to follow that?
Sure. I'm back. I'm back down to Earth, or maybe no, down to Lydia,
Okay.
singular planet, and very more directly in line with your question number one. I've got for question number one, I wanted to do a take it on the randomness of it to find a quote to go on the wall that will be the quote that Helen and Teresita use for their trip into the Henge. And so my method for obtaining the quote was that I keep in my Zettelkasten Sieg, I have a title index. And one of my titles in there is I've got quotes from whoever I keep quotes for, Mark Twain, Richard Feynman, all of you guys. And all of these things have separate bib cards for them, and they're all on the quote card in my title index. So I grabbed my quote cards, 2 pages, 2 cards now, and did the random thing. Okay, which one is it? And I looked down. Guess what? It was quotes from Julianne Scherer.
Uh-oh.
So then I went to my bib box and I pulled out my cards of quotes with Julianne Scherer, and I did that one. Okay, so again, totally at random. So here's the quote. I copied it off. It's from October 17th of 2024, and it is, so how do you encourage a viewer to embrace their questions as power tools?
Nice.
It's going to be on the wall, and when they come into the Henge for their tour, that's going to be how they enter the Henge. Woo, with a quote from Julianne. She made it to her own quote wall.
Is the lineage confused?
But it's
Where
going
did
to
I
be
say that? Was it in a YouTube comment?
I'd have to pull the card to see exactly what the quote was, where this was probably from either one of these gatherings, probably from a Zettelcast gathering on that date, or maybe a Roanoke group. But the reason why I was thrilled with it is questions as power tools. What a way to enter the Henge on a path of embracing questions as power tools when you walk into the Henge.
Well, that says a whole lot without saying it. So that's very well done.
Yeah. And it's just exactly what you challenged us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
that's
nice.
my question. That's my part 1. I've got my part 2, but we're not there right now.
You get a gold star.
Yeah.
Well, Julianne, look at that question. It's from her.
I'm honored. Thank you.
And with that, who's next?
So the prompt was to look for randomness and surprise and curiosity. And since I just only a few months ago copied all of my index cards into my index book, I felt like I kind of know what's in the index right now. There's not too many hidden things just because I copied all of that not too long ago. So tweaking things a little bit, instead of jumping into the index, I jumped into some of the wilds in my Zettelkasten itself, because there are parts from early on that didn't get properly indexed before I learned about taglines, so they didn't have any taglines. I mean, they're just completely lost. They're off the map. And I knew of one such area just from I'd been riffling through the cards at one point, and I'd noticed, oh, there's a big chunk over there that I need to deal with at some point. So today is the day, and I pulled them out, and they were actually surprisingly relevant. they were all from John Ruskin's book, The Seven Lamps of Architecture, which was written in the late 1800s. And he's talking about what makes great architecture. And he's critiquing what makes bad architecture as well, which is a lot surprising. Some of the things that he critiques are very surprising from a modern standpoint because we're so used to the things that he is disparaging. They've just become so ubiquitous. But the two things that kind of go together and are in this card, the first one was the concept of sacrifice as opposed to waste. Sacrifice is spending the time and the money and the effort to create something better, whereas waste is just you spend the time and the money and the effort, but you don't get something better. It's good material that's poorly done, or a really ornate carving that actually doesn't help the whole beauty of the thing. So sacrifice good, waste bad. And his whole argument for a large part of it is that you want to see the sacrifice of the time and the effort of the craftsman who created the artistic portions. And in Lydia, which is a world that we've designed with few physical constraints and a curiosity based culture, I could see them having a similar value in that the more effort that people put of themselves into whatever it is that they're making, the more valuable it is. You can't just like manufacture something. It wouldn't be valuable to them because what they care about is what the individual can bring that nobody else can. I think that's my take on it. And the other element that he was talking about a lot was the concept of truthfulness in art. And he was using this to disparage things like making a mold of some carving and then creating additional copies of the carving by pouring, the concrete or whatever plaster into the mold. And it's not truthful. You make it look like somebody carved it, but nobody carved it. Maybe they carved the first one, but not all the rest of them. And mold making and that sort of manufacturing it's everywhere. I mean, it's the point for us. It's not even lying because that's what we expect. We don't expect it was somebody actually carved the stuff. But I think that concept of truthfulness also would really apply in Lydia because of the link would make deception more difficult. And also it gets back to that, what do you have to contribute that is you? And you have to be truthful for that to come out. And how that relates to, it actually relates to both of my characters. Both Javi and Rosemary were raised in splinter groups or person, so they did not get exposed to that idea, that curiosity economy. I mean, Javi grew up in a splinter group who they're like, well, there's no game here. We came to this planet to play a game, but there isn't a game, so we'll just go off. And they basically recreated life on Earth, and make a living, live your life, etc. So deception is something that he has to unlearn. And the same thing with Rosemary, having been raised away from everybody by a paranoid father. And so they're going to have different paths to get there, but they are both moving from a position of a deceptive life to a truthful one.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, a lot of good stuff that I mined more out of that than I expected.
and
Yeah.
architecture plays a part, which
Yeah.
is, you know,
That's
it's built into the world there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's good. Okay,
Well,
you want to go?
yeah, I have been cleaning up several different index card explosions that occurred over successive weekends. Getting these things in the box, filed, etc. And I just want to show you what I'm talking about. So I've got my Z-log of my index. And the trick that I shared that Kathleen has embraced also is put it in the Z-log so that you can file the thing in the box and then catch up to the full indexing across all of your terms as you can. All right. These are the ones that I still have to do, having been working on it for about 10 days. There's the bottom of this page. There's this page.
Wow.
There's this page and this page.
Oh my gosh.
And this page.
And it keeps on blowing up.
And it's all over the map of the story world because I have basically 5.5 is the story world of Roanoke, and it's not of my part of Roanoke, and it's not it's by theme. It's not in order of the story at all. That happens separately, and I've got from A to P of those, and there are representatives of A to P here, so it's the randomness is there. This is all to say I've been spelunking. Well, one of the things that I know I need to do, which is hard for me, is to cause problems for the characters that I love. I've learned, a few little ways of thinking about writing from Mary Robinette Kowal, and one of the things that she says is, "This is your opportunity to just get mean."
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for such opportunities. But I can't have these people just slip sliding through life and everything just rosy. So Jenna is going to have some problems. And the problems are going to a set of problems are going to be happening through this effigy contest. And one of the problems that she's going to have is complying with the rules. Because the rules of the contest, because the henge is a space where the link is not operating. One of the rules is that the henge will accept no products from the link. And Jenna has a very deep relationship with her link. It's like a friend in her head. She's gone through a period where it was kind of an addiction, and she's worked through that. But still, to disentangle her process so that Eleanor, her link, doesn't sneak in unawares. Not that Eleanor, Eleanor's doesn't have any malice, but it operates. The link operates. So I knew all that. But I knew what has to happen is that she has to have already worked through a bunch of those things, the ones that she can think of. And one of the main things that she's going to have to deal with right at the very beginning is how she keeps time. Because Eleanor has basically kept time for her.
Okay.
I knew all that.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to have to do that. because it's obvious. The time plays a part in the phrase that she has to decode, but that's not the part. Understanding 15 minutes is not the part that confuses everybody on Lydia. And she knows that nobody on Lydia seems to know what this thing means when it says in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Everybody on Lydia has a sense of the future and 15 minutes that is different from her. So she's going to work through all of that. And still, what needs to happen, she's got to have some try-fails going on. She's going to submit something, and it's going to be rejected because it's got link in there. Where's it coming from? It's coming from when she's dreaming. So she's going to have to sleuth that out. And that's what fell into place through revisiting all of this stuff and having this question of how, after all of her, hardship, is she still going to fail? And she's going to have to figure it out, and it's going to be important.
Yeah. Very good. Oh, that's great. I so love watching how she's developing as a character. I mean, it's such an education in how to build a character from the ground up, especially starting without a background in, writing or narrative theory or character development or any of that stuff. It doesn't matter if you know 50 years worth of stuff or zero. The process is still the same. It's just, allowing your imagination some parameters, funneling them into this person, and then, okay, if I send them down this road, no, that's not right. What if we go down this road? And, and just feeling your way as you go. It's just so cool to watch. Like you said, you don't want to punch her, but you have to punch her. And how are you going to do that?
But I have to fight fair.
It's all good. No, that's great. And it speaks to a kind of a bigger issue in character development that, and I don't want the keyboard warriors to come at me, but it's kind of lazy or too easy to just, oh, she gets her heart broken. It's kind of an ad hoc. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be the thing. And then, the story progresses along, and like you could literally do it with your eyes closed because we've seen it so many times. But the way that you're proceeding is you want to follow a different path. And that, that's the writer in you that says, I want to explore this and go a different road. And that's what makes great characters and stories, I think. That's why this project, it's so cool. I'm so glad that we've launched it and stuck with it and just continue to push it along, because it only gets better every time, because we don't want to just do what everybody else does. That's what makes it so great.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, although commercial success would be nice, that is literally the farthest thing from my mind. I don't know about the rest of you. I am not setting out, I want to write a bestseller. What do bestsellers do?
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, it's more like, how do I make sense of all these things that are so interesting?
Exactly. And that's what makes a great story, because it's honest. You're on an honest exploration of all of the things.
And
then the craft comes in how do you weave those things together, and you just do. That's what makes it so fun.
Yeah.
Well, the thing for other budding fiction writers is, you've said it so many times, trust the soup.
Yeah.
It all comes together without you having to necessarily manipulate it very hard at all.
Right.
Not to quote myself here, but using the questions as power tools.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's
That, you just have the
so
questions
true.
in your mind. How's this going to work out?
Yeah.
Well, I know that I don't know because it's still a question. All right.
Right. Yeah. No, that's it. That's exactly it. There's no secret. There's just being brave enough to leave the questions open and let the answers weave themselves together,
Yeah.
which is sometimes very hard.
Yeah. But the Zettelkasten makes it so much more uh, stress-free,
Mhm.
Yeah.
except
Yeah.
for repetitive stress of writing all of those appendix entries.
True. Very true. Mm.
Literally had
Okay.
to get out the ointment.
Oh yeah, for real. Mine is usually sitting right here on the desk, but it's in the other room today because that's the last place I was. But yeah, the struggle is real. Okay, so I I kind of did what Mel did. Um, I have a section of cards, and I don't know if that's going to show up very well, but they're kind of all marked out and just little notes and weird stuff, and they're just kind of, it's a dump box within the Roanoke section, and I just haven't had the luxury of long stretches of time to just really be able to dive into creating story pieces. But when I do get an idea or a connection or something that gives me a grip on the story, it goes in that space. So much like Mel, I thought, well, I know all of the things that are in the main space because that's what I've been working the most on. So I thought I'm just going to pull something out of the deep dark cave of crazy and see what happens. And it's kind of interesting because I had completely forgotten that I ever had this idea. And so you're exactly right. I mean, the note box, it's always relevant because it's all you. It's not like some, dictionary that random people contributed stuff to. It's all yours. And the moment I pulled the card, I have this whole other story thread that like rematerialized because this was, I wish I would have dated it. I didn't, that's how early it was. I didn't even date or number it. So for this one, it's the only label on it is Time Bomb. And this is, the original idea was when we were early on, kind of noodling around and thinking about what is the link and what does it mean. And I remember very clearly Julianne, who I consider kind of our story origin keeper, was talking about how this would be something that you would carry within you that was like with Jenna, it's like a friend. It's something that you've come to terms with, and it's a kind and gentler part of you. And immediately I went to the other side of that, which is, what if it's something that you don't recognize or something that's frightening to you? So the card that I wrote says, it's labeled Time Bomb, and it says fear incarnated and then conquered. And I don't have a name for this character, but this person felt the dread congealing in her chest. And then I have a note that says broken link. The ticking was so faint, it could be her imagination, or maybe she willed it to keep her company. A tiny bug clacking its mandibles in a language she couldn't understand. No, it was real. It was louder, and it was coming from inside. And then I have another note that, yeah, right? And then the last note I have says build a ladder. And then on the back, I put, after severance, my name is, I am here, this is what I think. And so all of this encapsulates this idea of a character who maybe had that relationship with the link and something happens that severs it.
Mm.
And then this person, all she knows to do is to build a ladder. My name is Rebecca. I'm in the hospital. I'm okay. But there's this thing trying to connect. And she's afraid of it because she doesn't remember what it is. And so in my mind, it became an idea of someone, you know, not a child who's coming into something, but someone who's older, who's had this and lost it, and who is now hanging on to the shreds of what's remembered or what is identifiable, and trying to reconnect the circuit in a way that's not, you know, that doesn't swallow you up and that isn't frightening. So I thought, you know, knowing what I know now about the story and the world, it's a piece that I really want to revisit, because I think it's a way for the reader to experience another aspect of what that's all like with fresh eyes. That, I think that was the most interesting part of it for me, is if you drop into this world with some aspect of fresh eyes, what might that look like for the character in the story? So first I got to give this person a name, but that's what came out of my excavations. Is I want to go back to the time bomb piece and just noodle around with it and see what happens, because I think it could be an interesting alternative take on how one experiences this world.
Pretty neat.
I have some ideas of who it might be based on holes in my own portfolio.
Okay. Hit me.
So, for example, Dylan is Jenna's best friend. I have no idea about her parents, his parents.
Oh.
Maybe this is Dylan's mom, which could be really powerful. So that's one idea.
Collect connections.
Idea stolen. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of someone as having children. That's a whole nother aspect of what they know or don't know, or what they remember or don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take the bait.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like you say in your newsletter, draft it out, see if you like it. You can always draft something else.
That's right. That's right. No, I like it. I like it. Yeah. Okay.
I have something to add to that, but I'll wait for the spoiler zone because it would be spoilered.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Let me go back to my list. For the bonus round, present one note card to the group about your character or about how you see an aspect of the story, with the goal of unearthing something unexpected or something that we're curious about. So did anybody come up, anybody unearth something?
I unearthed something. And I won't pull out the card, but it has to do with the link again. So at the build-up, Jenna is the person who tells everybody how to turn their links off, because a lot of people are scared they won't be able to get it back and that kind of thing. And Chris asks her to help. And during the day, there are going to be some people who are kind of jonesing for the link, just like, you know, stay away from your phone, people.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the things that she suggests that people do, having fresh in their minds the ceremony of creating the Lukasa, the timeless way of building Lukasa, where Chris had everybody put in their minds a place that resonates for them, that humans have had a hand in building, in the same way that the stone bench resonated for Sky and Kevin. That ends up being important. They all do that.
Oh,
All these places that were, many of which were built in the timeless way,
Ah,
are worth revisiting.
very good. Yeah.
For their honesty.
yeah.
Well, this one is kind of out
Okay.
of left field. Because I didn't even pull it for the show. It's a card that I had written last week and was sitting on my desk and hadn't been processed in any way. But um, so it's because I misread something at work. I read legal contracts and I happened, my eye fell across some text and I thought it said paradigm lease. And I'm like, wow, what an odd thing. Well, it turned out it actually said parking lease, which is much less interesting. But it got me thinking as I was reading this contract.
That's awesome.
What would a paradigm lease look like? You
Yeah.
you don't want to buy a paradigm. You just want to lease it for a little while and then let it go.
Oh, I love that.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
Once you sign the lease, you get the paradigm shift.
Right. Or what happens if you break a paradigm lease? What sort of penalties would you pay? I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
But the whole Roanoke story is about changing paradigms and people becoming aware of paradigms that they weren't even aware of and learning different ways of seeing how things work. And so
Mhm.
that could be a fun thing. Hey, I don't know, the idea of a lease could be something in the Henge because they probably don't have that concept in Lydia.
Yeah.
I mean, what would it
yeah.
even mean to lease something?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What does it mean to break your lease?
Hmm.
Break my what?
Well, mine
That's
relates.
great.
If are you? Did you have more, Mel?
Yeah, that's it.
Mine also relates to artifacts in the hinge. So when Helen and Teresita go into the hinge, and I've mentioned this in Roanoke calls, at this point in time, Helen is kind of discouraged over what she thinks is, what capabilities Teresita actually has, and is kind of ready to think that she's, maybe 3 IQ points over a tomato. Um, Sadly, but she patiently explains these simple artifacts as they go through the hinge. And so she explains, 2 or 3 artifacts, and Teresita very patiently listens to her explanations and, doesn't say anything, just very courteously listens. Then they get to this artifact. Now, this is also one that came about through this process. And so the card that I pulled out was one from Scott Shepper, which is, he's always talking about, for marketing, he's always talking about the woman in the red dress and how, if you're going to be a writer and you're going to market your stuff, you want to position your book as the woman in the red dress so it stands out from the field. So the artifact that's going to stump Helen is a woman in the red dress artifact, but that it's going to be the caption, and I'm not totally sure how to word this, but that came out of our call, Mel, your subscriber call yesterday that many of us were on. Um, the caption is going to be the contrariety between the attention economy and the curiosity economy. And that's going to totally stump Helen. In the first place, she's still old school. She still got very much has a foot back on planet Earth. She hasn't even figured out that she's starting to get a hint of the curiosity economy, but she still isn't at the point where she can define the curiosity economy. And the attention economy is something she kind of knows from planet Earth, but they were kind of like disparaging it. You don't want to get told that. But what in heck does that word contrariety mean? And so she's kind of muddles her way through talking about how, she focuses entirely on the part she knows about the attention economy and how you can see this woman is wearing a red dress, and all of this background are men in suits, and they're dark colored suits, and see how strongly the red dress sticks out from the dark suits, which that's nice, that's what's in front of you, but she misses all the rest of this. So that's the place where Teresita speaks up, explains the meaning of contrariety, explains to Helen what the attention economy and the curiosity economy share, and the unique, interesting thing because the moment of attention is a curious moment. But the attention economy doesn't invite you to pursue your curiosity. It only grabs you to sell you something. It grabs you to get your attention so they can give you something other. Whereas the curiosity economy would pull you in so that you could discover more on the theme. So she's going to explain all of this in very simple terms. I have to work it out into natural semantic meta language so it can be in Teresita's terms. So she's going to explain the meaning of this Henge artifact to Helen in such a way that Helen will understand it. So another mystery solved. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Victoria.
Doesn't that feel wonderful when it just sort of the key just goes into the lock?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, mine's easy. I can go. So this is something I took out. Speaking of my newsletter, I took it out of last month. It might get just a tiny little cameo in this month. I'm not sure. Depends on if Haley lets me keep it. Or not this month, because this month is already gone. So I'm already looking at number 4. Anyway, there's a concept around using time in a story in combination with space, which is called Schizochronotopia. And the definition is a rift that occurs within the same space that allows the past and the present to collide. And I was thinking about that after I pulled my random card for the first exercise, because my thought was maybe that's a way in fleshing out that idea into a scene for this character. Something could happen that allows what she knows or retains from her past collides with where she is now. And at first I thought, well, that kind of describes the ticking or this attempted connection. But as I thought more about it, I thought, no, I want it to be something more tangible so that I can use the way that the narrative develops to create some tension, so that the reader doesn't know right away, is it something external or is it something internal? Is she crazy? Is she not? Is this a regular feature of interacting with the link in the world or not? So I want to write it in such a way that it creates a lot of questions that can then start to be unraveled, as it proceeds forth. So, for me, it was more of a question of what happens in the time and the space, and does it go right or does it go wrong, and what does that mean? So, and then that kind of gave way to my last thought, which was, what if that creates some kind of like chronotopic portal And that's the way through. Like she's going to have to come to terms with things in such a way that she creates a way for herself through, both intellectually and emotionally, and certainly how the link functions as kind of a bridge between those. So that's what I'm noodling around with in my spare time.
Okay, and then there's me. I'm with that same character, Dr. Shen, Sarah Shen, and her way of kind of self-healing is to think about curiosity as the anti, and I'm talking about opposite, not the way we've been using it here, the anti-culture bias. The curiosity equals the anti-culture bias. It's an ego tamer, because if you deliberately make sure that you answer curiosity-based questions, then you can't automatically anyway allow assumptions to take over. So that's my little take on that.
Oh, very good. That's true. Yeah. Curiosity versus assumptions. That kind of nails it.
I mean, assumptions are really useful. If you put a pin in it, but that doesn't mean you nail it down.
You just lease that paradigm. You don't buy it.
Excellent. All hail the typo and the misread.
Yeah.
The roads into the unconscious.
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Anybody got anything else to throw in the pot?
Well, that was so much fun and so valuable for moving the story along for me. I just loved that exercise. I want to thank you for that, Victoria.
Yeah, well, it helped me too. I mean, that's the value of having this kind of exercise, whether you're in a group writing one story or you're all in a group writing your own stories. Just being able to talk things through and toss things out and put a pin in them, sometimes that's the secret sauce.
Yep.
So, hey, Kathleen, if people wanted to participate or learn more, what might they do?
Come on over to LiLLiPub.org. It's where we hang out when we're not here in YouTube land. And boy, oh boy, you can find over in the library, you'll find a complete link of all of the Zettelcast episodes with their titles. So you can quickly go to whichever exercise is going to help you move your story along, because that's the fun of all of these prompts that we give each other. You don't just have to use them here. You can give them to yourself to help you move your story. And then come on over to LiLLiPub.org. Once you join, it's only $8 a month, and that opens all of the free spaces in LiLLiPub. Most of the spaces are at no charge. We do have newsletter spaces. Victoria, Mel, and I, and soon Deb premium spaces exist, but the majority of LiLLiPub is all yours for the $8, including the Roanoke and including fusion writing. So come on over and join us at lillipub.org. Thank you.
See you next time.
See ya.
Okay.